Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chov Daled Amud Beis, 7 lines from the top. We learned previously that there are certain avoidos that a non-kohen is going to be chayiv misa bidei shomayim for. Rav lists 4 of them: Zrika, Hakdara, Nisuch hamayim, and Nisuch hayayin. He learns these 4 out from the pasuk that has 2 requirements. A, it has to be that it's avodah tama, it has to be the culmination of the various avodos. For example, in the avodas hadam with the shechita, there's kabbalas hadam, halacha, bringing it to the mizbech, and finally the zrika. Only the zrika is going to be chayiv. Secondly, he learns from the pasuk that it has to be a matana, an application, to exclude that which is a siluk, a removal. Levi argues and says, in addition to these 4, there's a 5th, that's Chumas Hadeshin. Chumas Hadeshin is a siluk, it's a separation of the ashes. He has a ribui of the posuk, and therefore the ribui of the posuk that states, the whole Dvar HaMizbeach includes even Chumas Hadeshin. Levi goes on to say that the things that are going to then chayiv siluk is for the outer, but not for the inner. Namely, when it comes to Kodesh HaKadoshim, the siluk of the machta and the kaf will not be chayiv the zar for those avoidos. But the siluk of Chumas Hadeshin was in the outer mizbeach, that will be mechayiv the zar. The Gemara now asks, what about when it comes to the heichal? Boi Rava, avoida siluk beheichal mahu. According to Levi, who says siluk is going to mechayiv in the outer mizbeach, what about heichal? For example, when one removes, let's say, the ashes from the inner mizbeach, the mizbeach haktoires, or he removes the ashes and cleans the menorah that is situated in the heichal, is that going to be mechayiv the zar misa b'dei shamayim or not? What's the question? Lifnim medamin lei or lachutz medamin? Do we compare it to lifnim, to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is not mechayiv, or bichutz, that we do mechayiv, according to Levi? Answers the Gemara, chodar pashto mi bais ulemi bais. Afterwards, Rav himself answered his own question. It says in the pasuk, instead of saying mi bais, within, referring to only the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it says ulemi bais. That comes to include even the heichal, and therefore the removal of the Chumas Hadeshin, the removal of the ashes of the menorah or the ashes of the mizbeach haketores would not be mechayev the zar. Ella me'ato, the Gemara says, zar shesider es hashulchan lechayev. According to this, then, that which Rava just said, it would mean then, if he would then do an avoida that is not a removal in the heichal, the zar would yes be mechayev misa b'dei shomayim. For example, if he prepares the shulchan that goes in the heichal, Gemara says ika sider bezichin. The shulchan is where you put the 12 loaves of bread, and you put 2 also spoons of levoina. After the next Shabbos, it's removed. The 2 spoons of levoina, the levoina is now placed on the mizbech, the outer mizbech, to be burnt, while the kohanim, they eat the old loaves from the previous week, and then the new loaves are placed on the shulchan. So Gemara says that's not going to be a concluding avoida by being mesader the breads on the shulchan, because there's also the siddur bazichin. There's also the preparation of putting the 2 spoonfuls of levoina. The Gemara says, okay, then siddur bazichin lechayiv. Let him be mechayiv the zar for being mesader the 2 spoons of levoina. Gemara answers, Ki'ika desiluk v'haktora. Since you have to remove them and burn them on the mizbeach, that itself is the concluding avoida, and it's already included in the avoida of haktora that the zar would be chayiv for. Now the Gemara asks, zar shesiders ha-menorah lechayiv. When the zar removes the ashes of the menorah, let him be chayiv for that. The Gemara says, here it's not just removal of the ashes. That we said before would be considered to be a siluk. Here we're talking about where after he goes ahead and takes the lamps from the golden menorah and cleans them out, he then puts them back clean. and ready to be used. So that's what the Gemara is asking now. Zar shesider as hamenor lechayiv. Let the zar be chayiv misa for this. Gemara answers, ikad nesinas psila. It's not a concluding act because you have to put the psilois, the wicks, inside. Okay, ask the Gemara, nosim psila lechayiv. Then he should be chayiv for putting the psila. Answer the Gemara, ikad nesinas shemen. He has to also add oil. So it's not a concluding avodah. Nosin shemen lechayiv. So then by putting the oil, that should be mechayiv as the culminating avodah. Ika hadlaka, there still is lighting. Says the Gemara, then halika lechayiv can be the halakha be mechayiv. Halakha lav avodahi. Halakha is not going to be an avodah. V'lo asked the Gemara, is halakha indeed not an avodah? V'hatani, it says in the Brisa, v'nosnu b'nei Aaron hakohen eish ala mizbeach ve'orchu eitim ala eish. And the children of Aaron hakohen, they lit the eish on the mizbech, and they prepared the wood for that fire. Limeid alatzosa alisa shaloi tehei ella b'kohen kosher ubeklei shores. Since only the kohanim perform it with their 4 vestments of bigdei kahuna, so it's mashma that's an avodah. So since this is an avodah of lighting this pyre and preparing the wood, therefore also the halak of the menorah should also be considered to be in avodah. Now the Gemara makes a chiluk. Hatzosa alisa avodahi, halaka lav avodahi. When they light the wooden chips to then ignite and make a strong fire for the pyre, that's called an avodah. But merely putting a fire on a wick, that's not considered to be an avodah. Ask the Gemara, okay, so now that you've said all of these things, so it should come out that there should be an additional thing on the list that should mechayiv zar elameat zar shesiders hamarocha lechayiv. When the zar sets the wood on the ma'aroch, on the pyre, that should be an avodah, that should be mechayiv. The Gemara says, "Ika sider shnei gezirei eitzim." Since there are 2 logs of wood that are put on afterwards, so it's not a concluding avodah. Ask the Gemara, "But the sidei shnei gezirim lechayiv." Let the 2 logs that are put on be an avodah mechayiv the zar, because that is a concluding avodah. No, ika sider avarim. The Gemara says the korban tamid is going to then have the avarim being placed on those woods, whereby placing the 2 logs is not considered to be a concluding avodah. Rabbi Yochanan says that when one places the 2 logs, if he's a zar, he's going to be chayiv misa b'dei shomayim. The Gemara says b'ha pligi. In fact, it's a machlekes. Mar saver avodah tama he, umar saver lav avodah tama he. Rabbi Yochanan says it's considered to be avodah tama. The very placement of the 2 logs is in itself a concluding avodah. Even though avarim of the korban tamid are placed afterwards, that's already separate. Whereas when it comes to the other manda omar, Rav Asi, he says that that's included in the avarim, and therefore placing the 2 logs is not in itself an avodah tamah, concluding avodah. The Gemara now brings that we had a machlokes Rav and Levi. Again, Rav said there are 4 avodos that a zar will be chayiv misa for. They include the zrika, the hakdara, the nisuch hamayim, and nisuch hayayin. And Levi added a 5th. He included also the Trumas Hadeshin. Tanya Kavose de Rav, Tanya Kavose de Levi. We have a brisa like both of them. Tanya Kavose de Rav, Avoido Shezar Chayiv Aleim Misa, are as follows. Zrikas Dam, Zorik the Dam on the outer Mizbeach, Bein Lifnim, or Zrikas the Dam inside, that would be for a Chatas Mibifnim, towards the Paroiches, Bein Lifnai Velifnim, or including the Zrikas Adam in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Hamaz bechantas ha'oif, sprinkling the dam of the chantas ha'oif. The Hamamatze v'maktir ba'oilas ha'oif, the one who squeezes and burns the oilas ha'oif. The Menasek shloishes lugin mayim, ushlosh lugin yayim, referring to the nisuch ha'yayin and nisuch ha'mayim. These are the main categories that we mentioned before, and yet what's missing in this list is, in this brisa, the Trumas Hadeshin. So we see that this brisa goes like Rav. Tani Kavasi to Levi. However, we have a brisa like Levi. Avodas shezar chayiv alei misa are as follows. Hameri mesadeshin, trumas hadeshin. Is listen to this brisa. V'sheva hazo shebifnim sheb'misoro, the inner chatois. V'hamal al gabe mizbeach, bein dover kosher, bein dover posul. All of these korbanos that are brought on the mizbech, which includes, of course, the zrikas hadam and the haktorah. These are also the main categories that were mentioned before, and it also includes trumas hadeshin. So we have a brisa like Levi.